Hi, and welcome to the Robertson Media Center at the University of Virginia. Today we're going to talk about how to make a video tutorial. We'll start with tips for writing a script and planning your project. Then we'll discuss how to record audio and video. And then next we'll talk about editing and exporting your video and then posting it online. And if you'd like to skip around, make sure you check out the table of contents we provided below. A bit of advice: don't avoid making videos just because they're not going to be perfect, right? Having an imperfect video is far superior to having no videos at all. Research suggests that users are more dependent on video tutorials than ever before. And young users are many times more likely to watch a video tutorial rather than read a tutorial page. So don't be afraid to put something out there, even if it isn't the perfect version that you have in your head. Video tutorials should always be short. Ideally, it would be under 10 minutes, but that may or may not be possible with your project. Just make sure to break down any difficult, lengthy, or complex topics over a video series rather than in a single big long video with clearly labeled and defined sections. Some research suggests that the best length for a video is about 1 minute, but I often find that too limiting. A 3-hour tutorial broken into 1-minute sections would be very tiring, especially if you put your logo and your intro into each one. On the other hand, your audience will never ever finish a 3-hour long video. The longer the video, the more engagement you're demanding from your audience. So you'll need to find a good balance between total content and brevity. And you'll find that your viewership will diminish with each additional minute you add to your video. Always write a full or nearly full script, even if you plan to go off script and improvise. But trust me, this will drastically increase your thoroughness in covering content. It'll also make the topics run in a much more logical order and reduce the overall length. This may seem paradoxical, but tangents, redundancies, and a lot of take up a lot of time. Keep in mind that you may need to have a written transcript of your video later anyway for accessibility or other reasons, so why not write it down so you have that ahead of time. We recommend that you write in a language that is directed at your specific audience. So pretend that you're speaking to an audience member in person. Take the time to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, but only if it helps understanding. If a video is directed at the general public, make sure you use clear, simple language. Make sure you define any complicated terminology and explain any procedures that they may not be familiar with. However, if you're directing it at librarians, for instance, don't waste time defining industry standard terminology or explaining common library procedures. In terms of structure, make sure that the audience knows what is being covered in a logical order and when topics are changing. So that means it's best to provide like a brief table of contents at the beginning and perhaps chapter headings or intercut text for each section. Writing a script is a great chance to cut the fat. Really be ruthless with your editing. Your audience will definitely thank you later for your brevity, and they probably will stick around longer for shorter content. Also, keep in mind that writing format doesn't really matter here, especially if you are planning to do a storyboard. If not, just make sure you add in visual content in your script to indicate what you'll need in advance. The reason to storyboard is to organize your resources and thoughts. This is when you determine what you'll need to visually tell your story, because you both need to show and tell your content. So keep in mind, you don't want someone just sitting there talking like this, for instance, over and over and over again. You're going to have to show them, especially for technical processes like this, what you're talking about. For screen capture, just make sure you figure out what areas of the screen you'll need and where you can zoom in or out or pan around to maximize the small number of pixels that you have. Not everybody's going to be watching your video on a massive screen. Some people might be watching it on a smartphone, for instance. So think about how you can make the small details bigger for a different type of screen. So here's some questions to think about. First, what resources will you need to demonstrate the topic visually? Again, this is a visual medium. You need to show some things, so make sure you have those in advance. Would this section of script make most sense as a talking head, like this, or as a presentation slide, so you can have some text, or as a screen capture? Do you need text to illustrate the concept? Do you need a quote, for instance, or are you going to show a list of steps that'd be best to show with text? So keep in mind that you won't always be showing you talking into a microphone. Also, would it be helpful to download relevant images to intercut? Do you need to research visual materials other than talking heads or the screen itself? Gather these in an organized manner and set them aside for editing. But as you record, you can picture these resources and where they'll go, which will help figure out where your cuts are going to be and how to talk about something when you have it up on the screen. Overall, I wouldn't recommend spending a bunch of time trying to draw it out perfectly or anything. Keep in mind that a basic plan is fine. It's really a planning tool, not a product that you're going to share with your audience. So keep that creative energy stored up for the recording process and editing process itself. In these videos, it's a good time to create an introduction or reinforce your brand identity. So for our tutorials, I decided to create an animated introduction. And here are two examples for different kinds of tutorials that we create. I find that tutorials are not only like a teachable moment for the content you're trying to cover, but also an opportunity to present your product or your service in the best possible light. So you want to leave a sense of professionalism with your users and present yourself well, but also think about what you want them to take away from watching these videos, aside from the direct training content that you're covering. So consider the video series part of your overall branding. At the very least, I'd recommend adding a logo, and then you can fade it in and out like we've done in our videos. And here's an example of what that looks like. But consider what kind of branding and imagery you want to show to reinforce anything about yourselves.